Right after the wedding, my daughter-in-law showed up at my $10 million mansion with a notary and said, "We've already sold the house. It's time for you to move out." I just smiled, and what I did next, she's never going to forget. Glad you're here. Stick around and let me know what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story goes. I'd just turned the stove on when the doorbell rang. 3 hard, clipped chimes. I opened it to find Sophia standing there, smug as ever. A fresh bride, barely married a week, already acting like she ran the place. Rain dripped off her white umbrella, forming a puddle at her feet. Right behind her stood some guy in a wrinkled suit with a clipboard and metal case, a notary. Then came Michael, my son, soaked through, quiet as a ghost. "Hey, Eleanor," Sophia said, voice all sugar, as she waltzed inside without waiting for an invite. "We just came to handle some paperwork for the house. Figured it's easier to get it done all at once. So I brought a notary." I didn't move at first. The storm outside hadn't even broken over us yet, but the cold she dragged in hit fast. "The house?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. I stepped aside, let them walk in. Sophia marched straight into the living room like she'd already claimed every inch of it. Michael followed, wordless. She laid out a stack of documents on the coffee table. The first page read property deed. She glanced up at me. "All business. Just a few quick things. Nothing major. Best to take care of it before the market shifts, right?" I didn't budge, didn't flinch. Gave her the kind of smile you give when you know exactly what game is being played. She thought I'd crumble, that I'd panic, maybe even plead, that I'd sign, but I already understood the setup. They weren't here to ask for anything. They came to take what never belonged to them. I walked over, picked up the top page without blinking. Big dot, probably drawn up by some backdoor lawyer she dug up. Power of attorney, neatly worded, my name, printed above, a forged signature. I turned to Michael. He couldn't meet my eyes. "I didn't approve this," I said, low and clear, "and you both know it." Sophia's smile twitched. "Well, not yet, but this is just the first step. We figured today would be a good time to start, like I was supposed to be grateful." Thunder cracked outside. I folded the papers and slid them back across the table. "So this is why you married him?" I asked, staring her down. "For this house." She flinched. Just a flicker, but enough. That flash of irritation when things don't go according to plan. Michael finally spoke, barely louder than the rain. "We just thought maybe it was time you moved into something smaller. Mom, it's a lot of space, and you want it," I said for him. He didn't argue. Sophia's eyes narrowed. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." "No," I said, turning toward the kitchen.com as ever. "I'm just not making it easy." Walt, they sat there waiting for me to fall apart like they'd hoped. I let the water come to a slow, rolling boil. Let them feel what was coming. Because this wasn't the trap they thought it was. This was the start of my war. 3 days ago, I stood at the back of the room, watching my son marry a woman I'd tried so hard to believe was decent. Sophia had that glow brides always seem to have, that soft light that makes people drop their guard and assume kindness lives underneath the dress. Before the ceremony, she hugged me close and whispered, "You raised such a strong, loving man," and I believed her. God help me, I really believed her. That night, I didn't let my smile slip once in the photos. I raised my glass, like everyone else, held my breath while they cut the cake. I even pulled Sophia aside and told her how glad I was that Michael had found someone who truly loved him. She gave me that look, like it meant something to her, like she was touched. Now I know it was just part of the performance. The house they tried to take from me was in Pasadena, in a quiet corner of Southern California, where the streets still carry some memory of manners. A pale blue colonial revival with white trim, worn around the edges but full of pride. My mother left it to me when she passed, and it's the only place that ever felt like home. Every room holds a piece of our story. Michael's first fever, his shaky first steps, the dent in the banister from when he rode down in a laundry basket and slammed into the wall. He once told me, "I want to live here forever." Back then, I took it as love. Now, I wonder if even then he saw the dollar signs in the walls. The wedding wasn't even cold. Not a week had passed before the shift started. I should have seen it sooner after the honeymoon. Sophia wanted to bring her parents by to see the house. I figured it was a kind gesture. But her mother spent the whole afternoon asking about square footage and nearby school districts, while her father wandered around snapping pictures with his phone. Still, I smiled. Still, I cooked. Still, I played the part. Because what do you do when your son brings strangers into your home and calls it family? It wasn't until the next morning, after they'd left, that everything I'd been holding back finally caught up to me. This wasn't about family. This was about ownership. The roof I'd kept over their heads was suddenly a prize to claim. I kept quiet, not because I was afraid, but because I'd seen what happens when you confront people who think your silence means surrender. They had no idea who they were playing with. They mistook love for weakness. They thought my quiet meant yes. They thought I'd just hand it over. But this house isn't theirs, and it never will be. The morning after the wedding, I paused outside the guest room. The door was cracked open just enough. I heard Sophia's voice drift out like something sour in the air. "So, when are we going to unlock the house?" she whispered. A pause, a rustle. Maybe she thought I was out of earshot. "It's just sitting there, doing nothing," she said. "Do you know how much a place like that would sell for? We could flip it, invest, buy something newer. I mean, how much longer is she gonna need all that space?" I never heard Michael respond. Maybe he didn't say anything. Maybe silence was the only truth he had left. I stood there for a long time, one hand pressed against the wall, the other holding a dish towel I'd meant to take to the laundry. That phrase, "unlock the house," ran through me like a key in a lock I never gave them. Like I was just something in the way. Like my life was just waiting to be cleared out. I kept telling myself she probably didn't mean it, probably just said it in the rush of being newly married, caught in a moment, not thinking. I held on to that thought all day, repeating it like a line from a song I didn't want to forget. I whispered it under my breath while I made her coffee, complimented her nails, acted like everything was fine, even though the chill between us hadn't gone anywhere. Later that day, Michael and Sophia came down the stairs together. She had his robe on and a smile that looked like it didn't know how to lose. They moved like any happy couple, soft and easy. She asked if I had almond milk, if I could help find her charger. She leaned in, called me mom, and I didn't flinch. I played along, because something had settled quietly inside me. I wasn't going to stop them. I wasn't going to ask questions. I wasn't going to show anything at all. I was going to let them speak freely, get comfortable, feel safe, let them think the coast was clear. That night I brewed my tea strong and sat by the front window, looking out at the hydrangeas nobody touched anymore. My mother planted those before she passed. Every spring they showed up in blue, purple, sometimes pink if the soil shifted just right. She used to say, "A woman who controls her own property, controls her own peace." It was drizzling the day I bumped into Sophia's cousin. Not a storm, just the kind of quiet rain that sneaks up on you and soaks your clothes before you even notice. I was at Ralph's in the produce section, standing between the pears and the radishes, trying to remember if we still had butter at home, when I heard my name, Eleanor. I turned. Took me a second, but I recognized her. Marissa, I think, Sophia's cousin from her dad's side, the one in marketing with the always Tourange spray tan. She came up smiling, purse swinging off her arm. "Hey, oh my gosh, congratulations." I gave her a small smile. "Thanks, hun. For what?" She laughed. "For selling the house, of course." My hand gripped the cart tighter. "I'm sorry." Her head tilted like she thought I hadn't heard her right. "Sophia said you were downsizing. Said you got a great offer. Everything's already moving forward. Everyone's saying how fast it's all happening." I just looked at her. Didn't say a word. She either didn't notice the silence or figured I was being modest. She patted my arm and said, "Well, I hope you find a place with an elevator this time. These old houses are tough on the knees, huh?" She winked and wandered off toward the deli like she'd just told me I had nice shoes. I left the cart right there in the aisle. My hands were shaking by the time I made it to the car, but it wasn't fear. It wasn't even hurt. It was rage. Sophia had already spoken like the house was hers. Like I'd signed something and just forgotten I had. I didn't drive home. I sat in the car with my fingers clenching the steering wheel, watching the windows cloud over. Then I started calling. I reached out to an old friend from my bridge group whose son worked in real estate nearby, gave him Sophia's full name, and asked if she'd reached out. He called me back in less than an hour. "Yeah," he said. "She told the office she had power of attorney from you. They've already pulled comps and booked a showing for next week." A cold wave broke through me. Power of attorney. She was forging papers. That night, I went into the guest room closet and pulled out the cedar chest where my mother kept her jewelry, the family Bible, and that old manila folder with the original house deed. Right there at the top was my name, Eleanor Pierce, clear and official. No corners, no liens, no signatures but mine. I sat on the floor with the folder in my lap, thunder rumbling outside, though the loudest thing in the room was my own heartbeat. Talking behind my back was one thing, but walking into a real estate office pretending to be me, that was fraud, and I wasn't about to let that go. Still, I didn't call Sophia, didn't confront Michael, didn't demand answers, not yet, because now I had something better than accusations. I had proof, and I was going to let them walk straight into the mess they'd made. I didn't sleep that night, not from fear. I wasn't scared, but because I'd never felt more alert. The next day, I set up a meeting with my lawyer, Martha Reed. We go way back. She helped me settle my mother's estate 2 decades ago. Martha's sharp, quiet, and doesn't flinch when people show their worst. By midday, we were in her office, storm clouds still dragging across the sky. They're bluffing, she said, flipping through the deed and living trust I'd brought. If they filed anything with a fake signature and a power of attorney, it's fraud, plain and simple. I nodded. So what do we do about it? She gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. A lot. First, we updated my will. Then we went over every property record and legal document. I added a clause that any future sale or transaction had to go through court review. Martha also advised me to open a private safe deposit box, so I moved everything out of the house. Deeds, policies, appraisals, the whole stack, but locking it all away wasn't enough. I needed to know what they were planning before they made a move. That's when I made another call. Diana had brought it up weeks ago when I told her Sophia was nosing around. Call Ruben, she'd said. He used to be a county sheriff. Now, he makes a living finding what people don't want found. Ruben Ochoa worked out of a little bait shop that doubled as his office. He wore an old hunting vest and used a flip phone like it was still 2005. But when he looked at you, it felt like he already knew the whole story. I want to know what they're doing, I told him. Not guesses, facts. Names, calls, meetings, anything that woman has done tied to my house, and without a shred of legal right. He didn't blink, just scribbled something on a yellow notepad. You want this done quiet or traceable? Quiet, I said. Very. He gave me a nod. I'll be in touch within a week. That same afternoon, I went to the bank and opened a private deposit box. I stored the deed, the will, the insurance policies, and an empty USB drive that would soon hold Ruben's findings. I tossed the spare house keys into a sewing drawer. Then I made one more change. I took down the framed photo of Michael and me, standing by the old swing set, and hung a mirror in its place. The next morning, I drove back to the bank and opened a new safe deposit box, in my name alone. One by one, I placed every document I'd collected inside, watching the heavy metal door close with a click that felt like armor locking into place. I even added the old family photos, ones Sophia once begged to scan for the wedding video. I didn't trust her with a copy, not anymore. When I got back to the house, it was quiet, still, empty. And for once, I believed it might actually stay that way. I stopped at the bottom of the stairs and looked up, remembering the years I used to carry Michael up when he had a fever. The nights I waited up for him to sneak in after some party, I always kept the porch light on for him, even after he got his own place, just in case he decided to come by. That light had been off for days now. I wasn't sad, exactly. It felt more like I could finally see things clearly. They didn't want me. They wanted what this house stood for. That night, I changed the locks. Quietly. Sophia and Michael still had copies from when they stayed here for the wedding week. I couldn't sleep knowing that anymore. Not after everything I'd found out. I called an old friend who runs a locksmith service. He came after dinner, didn't ask a single question, just swapped everything out and handed me a fresh set of keys. Anyone bothering you, Eleanor? He asked with a crooked smile. Not yet, I said, but I like to be ready. He gave a nod. That's the spirit. I didn't tell a soul. Not Michael, not Sophia. Let them figure it out when they show up, all smug with their fake smiles and empty paperwork, thinking nothing's changed. Let them reach for the doorknob and realize it doesn't turn anymore. That night, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea in my hands, like it was the last warm thing left in the whole house. It wasn't the weather. Spring was here, and the air was soft. But there was a coldness Sophia dragged in the minute she showed up in my life. I stared through the window, past the hydrangeas and that cracked bird bath my mother used to adore. And I thought about all the times I bit my tongue instead of defending myself, all the moments I made excuses for people who didn't deserve them. Michael was never cruel, just too easily swayed. He chased after things that sparkled, like they could tell him where to go. And Sophia had that shine, like someone who wore ambition like perfume. That syrupy voice, those fake sweet compliments, the way she always offered to help with dinner, then vanished before a single plate hit the table. I remember her first time here, walking through the house, running her fingers along the banister, eyeing the crown molding like she was sizing it up for a sale, not visiting a home. I thought she was just impressed, but she wasn't admiring anything. She was calculating. What cut deepest wasn't that Sophia tried to take something that was never hers, it was how easily Michael let her. It reminded me of when my husband died and my brother offered to help handle the family paperwork. Said it'd be easier if his name was on a few things, just until I got back on my feet. By the time I realized what was going on, he'd sold off half the land my father left us behind my back. I never got it back, and I never forgave myself for not seeing it sooner. That betrayal has a new face now. A new voice. It lives in Sophia's careful wording and in the way Michael won't meet my eyes. I thought I'd buried that part of my life, but betrayal doesn't go away. It just changes clothes. Only this time, I'm not some naive girl. I'm not blind. And I'm not standing in the ashes, apologizing for being the one who got burned. I raised Michael by myself for 25 years, ever since the accident that took his dad. I gave up more than I can name, not out of guilt, but out of love. The kind of love that holds on even when it hurts, that keeps hoping if you just hang in a little longer, things might turn out right. But even love like that has its limit. The next morning, I drove across town. The trees lining the boulevard were just starting to bloom, their first buds trembling in the breeze, but I wasn't there to admire the scenery. I parked a couple blocks from an old stone house and walked up a narrow flight of stairs to a door with a dull brass plaque that read, Judge Horace Baldwin, retired. Before I could even knock, he opened the door. Well, if it isn't trouble in a cardigan, he said with a tired grin. Horace had been my brother's best friend in college. A sharp guy, all bones and brains, who spent 30 years behind a bench. He's been retired 5 years now, filling his time handing out free legal advice to anyone smart enough to ask. We sat out back on his porch, wood groaning under our chairs, sipping bitter black coffee from chipped mugs. I laid it all out for him, slow and steady, watching his face the way I used to watch Michael's when I thought he was lying. When I finished, Horace didn't hand me any comforting words or reach for my hand. He just leaned back and said, You've already done more than most people would even think to try. I need this lockdown, Horace. I mean airtight. I don't care what they try. I don't want them anywhere near this house. Not now, not ever. He gave a quiet nod. Then, we're rewriting your will. You're going to need a trust, and not just one. I gave him a look. I take it you're guessing there's some money they don't know about. A real smile tugged at my mouth for the first time that day. More than enough. Good, he said. Then here's the deal. You need 2 trusts, one for the house, one for your assets. And you'll have to name a new beneficiary. I hesitated. I already know who. He didn't push. He never did. He just nodded and reached into the table drawer for a legal pad, scribbling in those small, neat letters of his. By the time I left, everything was outlined. One living trust to shield the house from lawsuits and claims. Another to hold most of my estate, with a named heir that had nothing to do with Michael or Sophia. A clause cutting them out completely if they tried to bring in attorneys, and sealed instructions that wouldn't be opened until I was gone. That night, I changed every password I had. Shredded old files, burned letters I'd only kept out of guilt. Then I took a thick manila envelope from the back of my closet and wrote one name across it in black ink. Lucy, my niece. My sister's daughter, raised across the country, a public school teacher, and the only one who ever called just to ask how I'd been sleeping. She didn't know it yet, but she wasn't just going to inherit a house. She was getting peace. Sooner or later, she'd understand what that really meant. It was getting dark when Michael showed up on his own. I saw him through the front window before he knocked, standing on the porch, shifting from foot to foot like a kid who knows he's done something wrong. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. Hi, Mom, he said, barely above a whisper. I stepped aside. He came in slow, like the place felt unfamiliar, like something important had shifted. He looked around the living room, same room he used to cover in Legos and juice spills, and walked through it like a guest. He didn't sit. Sophia thinks, it's time, he said. You've got this big place, and, well, it's a lot for you to keep up with alone. I didn't say a word. He cleared his throat. We found this senior apartment complex in Westwood. It's really nice. Great amenities, full-time staff, medical support. It's actually really nice. We'd help you move. Sophia even offered to decorate your new space. I gave him a small smile. He saw it as a green light. Then he dropped the sentence that flipped everything on its head. If you're not open to this, we might have to reassess. It's hard for Sophia to feel at peace knowing this house is still unknown. An unknown, I echoed. He paused. She just wants us to start fresh, build something of our own, without this house and whatever tension it carries holding us back. I looked him straight in the face. So if I stay here, you're cutting me off. He glanced at the floor. It's not like that. Say it. He didn't need to. I had never seen him so distant, so practiced, so hollow. Those weren't his words, they were hers, Sophia's voice, word for word. Probably scripted. She always planned everything down to the smallest detail. I wanted to shake him, yell at him, ask if he remembered who nursed him through pneumonia, who picked up night shifts after his father died to keep the house, who stitched his Halloween costumes by hand because he couldn't stand the store-bought ones. But I stayed quiet. I stayed composed. Michael, I said, low and steady, I'm not going anywhere. He exhaled. Why not? What are you holding on to? History, Michael. You can call it sentimental. I call it mine. He looked at me like I was speaking nonsense. I'm not your weight to carry, I told him, clear as day. You don't get to erase me when it gets inconvenient. He tried once more. I just don't want us to stop talking. That already happened. He started to speak, then didn't. I saw the flicker, hesitation, guilt, maybe even a memory. The kid I raised showed up for a split second, then he was gone. He didn't hug me goodbye, didn't thank me for the tea I never poured. He just left, and when I closed the door, turned the lock. He wasn't my son anymore. He was Sophia's co-strategist, and the second he tried to push me out of the house I built, he became something else. It all started with tea. Every Thursday at 3, I sat with women from town, widows, retirees, a couple of divorced teachers who ran the library book sale. At first, we sipped our tea, talked about sore joints and who had good strawberries that week. But in towns like this, truth travels without noise. By the second Thursday, someone brought up a will. Don't leave anything off, one woman warned. Not even your piano. My sister's kids went to war over a piano for 2 years. Another added, add a clause about emotional manipulation. My niece tried to say I wasn't mentally fit just to cash out early on the trust. I didn't ask for more. I didn't have to. We all understood what it meant to survive the inheritance battlefield. They called it getting older. I called it a slow robbery. So I started bringing a notebook. I asked my questions carefully. What wording do you use in the trust for living heirs? How do you protect against challenges to mental capacity? Which attorney won't laugh if you say you're writing your kids out of the will? And they answered. Those women, with their cat pins and orthopedic shoes, became my quiet armor. We swapped affidavit samples like family recipes. We talked about naming co-executors, inserting irrevocable clauses, recording everything on video. It wasn't just tea, it was preparation. A silent war council held over lemon cake and old wounds. One of them, Judith, handed me a manila envelope tied with a red string. This is what I gave my lawyer, she said. The part that bans them from ever setting foot on the property again after being thrown out might come in handy. Then Shirley chimed in with her own take. Make it financial, she said. If they so much as try to split things up early, they lose everything, even the life insurance. Freeze them out so hard the idea alone scares them. I liked Shirley. Back at home, I updated all my files, labeled the new ones, and made 3 sets of copies, one for the bank deposit box, one for the safe at home, and one for a sealed envelope tucked in Diana's freezer. She laughed when I asked her. If something ever happens to me, I told her, grab it with the fish sticks. She slammed the lid down, frozen backup. Got it. That weekend, my niece Lucy dropped by, like she did every month. still in nursing school, still wearing that old sweater I made her. She helped me store the heavy comforters, and then, like it was nothing, I showed her where the important documents were, just in case, I said. She didn't question it, just nodded and ran her fingers along the folder like she was trying to memorize it. Same quiet strength I remembered in my mother's hands. This wasn't theater, no drama, just quiet moves behind closed doors. Because here's what I've learned, watching women get wiped out, it doesn't happen in court. It happens in kitchens, in fake smiles, in pauses that say don't argue, let it slide, be thankful. But I wasn't letting anything slide. And I wasn't about to start yelling either. A couple nights later, Ruben, my investigator, called late. "I've got something you'll want to hear," he said. We met behind the old bait shop. He handed me a USB and a receipt. "Sophia made a call at a coffee shop yesterday. Didn't hang up right. Her Bluetooth caught everything. I didn't ask how, I just took it. Back home, I pulled the blinds, poured a mug of tea I wasn't going to drink, and plugged the drive into my laptop." Her voice filled the room. Not the syrupy, sugar-coated tone she used with me. This was the real one. Clear, sharp. "She's so naive," Sophia laughed, still going on about family photos and recipes. "We're selling that house as soon as she signs. Michael's already looking." I told him not to wait. A pause, then someone else asked something I couldn't quite make out. Sophia again, more sure of herself this time. "She won't fight us. She's too nice. She thinks staying quiet makes her strong, but it just makes her weak." That was the end of the file, but it was enough. Enough to punch the air out of my lungs. Enough to turn sorrow into steel. I sat there a while, hands clasped, laptop humming low. Then I opened my desk drawer, pulled out my journal, and wrote it down. June 11th, 7:32 p.m. Audio obtained via private investigator. "Sophia, she's so naive. We're going to sell that house. Confirms plan to manipulate, sell, and transfer ownership without consent." I underlined, "We're going to sell that house." I saved the file 3 times, one copy locked in the safe, one in the bank box, and one burned to a CD I marked with a Sharpie, if they ever deny it. Next morning, I played it for Martha. She didn't blink. "We'll file the cease and desist immediately. If she contacts another title agent, we hit her with a civil suit." I nodded. "I want the press looped in quietly. An anonymous tip, elder abuse, coercion for assets. You'll know how to word it." Martha gave me that razor-thin smile. "You're not just defending yourself, you're writing the last page." That night, I left the porch light off. Let them come knocking in the dark if they had the guts. Let them wonder just how much I really knew. That recording wasn't just evidence, it was a confession. It made everything real, not just to me, but to the law. I listened to it again before going to bed. Not out of anger, but to remind myself what I was standing up for. It wasn't just the house. It was my voice, the one they thought would stay quiet. Sophia never saw me as family, barely even as a person. To her, I was a nuisance wrapped in a doily. A burden dressed up as tradition, and Michael, he served me up without blinking. That truth settled into me like cold steel. I went to the drawer where I kept the recorder, the same one I used when they showed up with the notary, and hit record. I spoke into it softly, just the facts. Then I backed it up onto 2 different devices. After that, I picked up my pen. After the call ended, I looked around my home. The hand-carved banister, the hallway wallpaper with faded flowers, that old photo of Michael's 3rd birthday, washed out from the sun. This place wasn't a prize, it was a promise. And I'd burn every last bridge before I let them take it from me. By Tuesday morning, everything had kicked into gear. I got to Martha's office right at opening. She already had the voicemail playing through a speaker tucked behind her lamp. When it ended, she didn't even glance up, just scribbled something on her notepad with a stub of a pencil, then closed the file with a quiet snap. "That's more than enough," she said. She wasn't talking about feelings, she meant legally. We put together the cease and desist order that same day. Straightforward, official wording. It was addressed not just to Sophia but also to the real estate agent she'd been whispering to. Martha made sure it mentioned false identity, manipulation, and that legal action was under review. "We're not accusing them yet," she said. "We're just letting them know the line's been drawn." "What's next?" I asked. She met my eyes. "A court order, an injunction, maybe damages." I nodded. "And I want to notify the public registry of property, I told her, in case she tries to shift the paperwork behind closed doors. Martha gave a tight smile. The kind you give when you know the trap's almost set, I signed. That night, I sent out 2 things. First, the cease and desist paperwork. Second, an anonymous tip to the local paper about how older folks are being leaned on in their own homes in quiet neighborhoods. I didn't name names, just gave them something to chew on. A soft pitch. The subject line read, "How family love becomes real estate leverage." I wasn't hiding, I was just pointing the spotlight where it would sting the most. At the same time, I asked Horace, my late brother's best friend, who's pretty much running my estate now, to finalize the trust. The original plan was to hold off, keep it close, until the timing was perfect. But I didn't need to wait anymore. What I needed was a clean line. The next day, I called Lucy, asked her to stop by. She showed up with warm bread and a shaky smile. I brought her straight to the kitchen and handed her a sealed envelope with her name written bold across the front. If anything happens, a fall, a hospital stay, anything sudden, open this. She nodded, serious. I told her where the backup copies were, where the safe key was hidden, and which old cookbook held the code, tucked between the sticky lemon bar pages. She didn't say a word, just held the envelope to her chest and whispered, "I've got your back." I nodded. I know, because Sophia ran her mouth, but Lucy didn't forget. That night, I got home, poured a glass of wine, and opened my laptop. The order was already marked receive. The real estate agent responded in under an hour. Apologies for the confusion. We believed the request was valid. We'll take no further action. Good one down. Still nothing from the paper. Maybe it wouldn't come. Didn't matter. Because the next time Michael and Sophia showed up here, they wouldn't be met by a notary. They'd be met by a cop and a court order. And by the woman they were sure would never stand up to them. I left the porch lights on that night, just in case they decided to drive by. They came back Thursday. Same notary. Same smug little smile on Sophia's face. Same thick manila envelope, but this time, someone else stood just behind me in the doorway. Officer Hartman, from the county sheriff's department, tall, calm voice, wearing the badge I'd gone through all the right steps to request. I didn't open the screen door right away. Let her speak through it. "We've got all the final documents ready," she said, all cheery. "We thought we'd handled this nice and easy, no drama." Even brought a new pen. Michael stood behind her like a statue, eyes locked on the porch floor. The notary already had his clipboard out. That was my moment. I opened the door just enough to step outside, didn't invite anyone in, didn't greet the notary, just handed Sophia a heavy, official-looking envelope. "This is for you," I said. "Steady." She took it slow, eyeing me. "What is this?" That, I said, "is a formal court order, effective immediately. You are to stop any and all legal or financial activity related to this property." The notary froze mid-breath. Sophia blinked, confused. What?" Officer Hartman stepped forward. His tone stayed low, but there was no room in it for misunderstanding. "Ma'am, you've been served. Any further attempt to handle this property under Mrs. Pierce's name will be treated as fraud and reported to the DA." Michael's head jerked up. "You called the cops." His voice cracked apart, whatever pride he had left. "No," I said. "I called the court, and they answered." Sophia's hands were shaking while she fumbled through the paperwork, clearly overwhelmed. "This is a mistake. We were just trying to help." "I don't need your help," I told her. "And I sure as hell don't need your notary." The notary packed up his clipboard without a word and made his way down the steps. Michael looked at me, really looked at me, and for the first time in years, I saw something different. Not guilt, not anger, fear. "You're not serious," he said. Every word. Sophia's voice went sharp. "You're shutting us out. After everything we've done for you." Officer Hartman moved in a little closer. "That's enough." She was about to keep going, but I raised my hand just a little. She stopped. "Leave," I said, quiet. "Before this turns into more than paper and ink." They didn't argue. Not really. They turned around, walked down the steps, and got in the car. Sophia slammed her door. Michael looked back once, but I'd already shut mine. I stood there in the foyer for a while, the court order still in my hand, just the backup copy now. The house was dead quiet. It didn't take long. Not even 2 hours later, the phone rang. No caller ID. I didn't pick up. Then came the banging. Not knocks, bangs. I opened the door, slow, left the chain on. It was Michael, alone. His eyes were red, not from tears, from fear. "Mom, what is this?" he asked, holding up the envelope like it burned his fingers. "What's this supposed to prove?" "It proves," I said, steady as ever, "that I finally see you. For real." He shoved the envelope back through the crack in the door. "They're playing you. You're not thinking straight." Sophia was only trying to help. She pretended to be me to a real estate agent. She didn't actually sign anything, but she meant to. Silence. Then his voice softened. "We thought you'd want to protect your future." I stepped back and unlatched the chain. Opened the door all the way. In my hand was another envelope, cream-colored, thick, engraved. I pulled out the first page of my updated will, the notarized copy, my name at the top, Michael's name nowhere in sight. "You're not a beneficiary anymore," I said. His breath caught. "Not me. Not Sophia. Not anyone who thinks my worth comes down to property. You heard me." I didn't flinch. "I raised you," I said. "Gave you everything I had, my time, my strength, my silence. And you paid me back with strategy, with moves." His voice cracked. "I was scared. So was I said quietly. "But I didn't let fear push me into wrecking the only home I ever knew." He dropped his eyes. "Please," he said. I shook my head. "You thought being quiet made me weak, that because I didn't yell, I wouldn't see you cornering me." "I wasn't trying to do that," he murmured. "Then why?" I asked, stepping closer. "Did you stay quiet when she talked about kicking me out of my own house?" He said, "Nothing." I held out the will. "This is what's real now. You don't get the house. You don't get anything. You get what you earned. And what you earned is nothing." Still no answer. Not even when Sophia showed up behind him, halfway up the walk, yelling, "She's bluffing. She wouldn't do this." I looked at her once, just once, and said, loud enough for the whole block to hear, "This house isn't mine anymore." Sophia froze. Michael whipped around. "What?" I gave a faint smile. "It's in a historical preservation trust now. Protected, archived, permanent. It can't be sold. It can't be passed down. It can't be touched. Ever." Sophia went pale. Michael stared like everything had just caved in. "You gave it away." "No," I said, low and steady. "I saved it." Then I shut the door, locked it, and left them yelling at the wood. The next day, it was Michael again. Alone. No yelling. No smug grin. No lawyer in the wings. Just him, looking like he hadn't slept. I watched from the window as he stood on the porch, shoulders slumped like he'd finally dropped the act. He knocked once, soft, like a kid still believing I'd always open the door. I opened it. He didn't step in, just looked at me. His eyes red, and not from the weather. "I didn't think you'd go this far," he said, voice rough. I said nothing. I thought it'd be simple. We'd convince you, help you downsize. The money would help all of us. I raised an eyebrow. "Us?" He looked away. "I was scared," he said again. "Scared of the debt, of being in charge, of getting stuck in a life I didn't pick. And you figured I'd just hand you mine." He shook his head, slow. "No, I just thought you wouldn't fight." That caught me off guard, because he was right. He counted on me not to push back, and for a long while, I didn't. Not when his father dumped his debts in my name. Not when the bills piled up and I worked back-to-back shifts while Michael slept soundly upstairs. Not when Sophia started grinning too wide and asking about the square footage of every room. I kept my mouth shut, until I didn't. He wiped his face with the back of his hand. "She left," he said, "took her stuff and went to her sister's. Said I wrecked everything. Said you were supposed to be the easy part. I didn't move, didn't blink. She loved my money more than she ever loved me," I said flatly. He winced. "I know, and you let her." He finally met my eyes. "Yeah, I let her. I waited." "I'm sorry," he said under his breath. "I'm not asking for anything. Just." I gave him a single nod. "You just missed me now that I've said no." His mouth opened, then closed. I stepped outside and shut the door behind me before he could see my hands shaking. "You're my son, Michael. That's not going to change. But I raised you to be better than this. And if you want to be that man again, don't do it looking for applause." I nodded again. "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm free." He didn't ask to come in. He didn't ask for the house. He just walked off the porch and headed for his car, shoulders heavier than when he showed up. I watched until he turned the corner. Then I went back inside. I closed the door, not with triumph, but with the quiet that comes from letting a fantasy go. Because love without respect isn't love. It's just a deal waiting to expire. And mine finally had. I woke up calm. The air smelled like old floorboards and coffee that hadn't been brewed yet. I walked downstairs with my hand on the rail like always, only this time without bracing for someone who didn't belong. The tile creaked beneath my feet. In the kitchen, the chairs were right where I left them. The tablecloth hadn't been yanked sideways by anyone checking the wood. I put water on to boil and pulled out the bag of ground coffee I saved for certain. Days Today was one. While it heated, I turned on the radio. A soft trio played, voices you don't really hear anymore. Tropical Trail. I closed my eyes for a second, let it wash over me. A knock came at the door. I froze. Another knock. To this time, I moved slowly, peeking through the curtain. It was Lucy. She was smiling like she knew I'd be looking. Tea or coffee? I asked before opening the door all the way. Coffee today, she said, lifting a paper bag. Brought scones and a slice of cornbread cake. In case you're hungry. We sat in the kitchen, mugs in hand. Lucy didn't talk at first. She just glanced around, like she was feeling out the house. Everything quiet. She finally asked, too quiet? I'm starting to think peace has a sound. And what's it sound like? Like nothing, I said. Nothing. And the click of the new lock. Lucy laughed, then dropped her gaze. And Michael, he hasn't come back, I said, voice steady. You think he will? I took a long sip of coffee. No. But that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Lucy pulled her feet up under her stool. My mom says some pain's like a habanero pepper. Doesn't kill you, but it makes you see everything different. I smiled. Your mom's sharp. Always has been. Lucy looked at me like she didn't want to say the wrong thing. You think he regrets it? Regret? Maybe. But regret without change is just a fancy way of staying the same. The days rolled by without much fuss. I started walking around the block every morning, nodding at the neighbors. At the corner shop, Mrs. Marta handed me some vegetables. Your eyes don't look so heavy anymore, she said. That's 'cause I don't have to keep watching my back, I told her. One Tuesday, I walked into the Community Arts Center and signed up for a writing class. 10 women, one long table, and a teacher named Hilario, like someone who used to sing in the 70s and never quite made it. No one said a word during that first session until one woman read a story about a mother who slept with a knife under her pillow. Not because she was scared, but because she was used to it. Hilario clapped. And what if that mother put down the knife? He asked, scanning the room. I raised my hand. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she swaps it for a pen. That's where it all kicked off. A few weeks later, after class, a woman named Carmina asked me to come over for coffee. Got a minute? She asked. I need someone who can hear me without feeling sorry for me. Her place was tucked behind a small garden. She pulled out a notebook with pages missing. My son sold my wedding rings, she said. Claimed he needed the money. But I knew it wasn't need, it was ease. What did you say to him? I told him to shove where the sun doesn't shine. We laughed. Then what? I cut him off for a year. He showed up later with one of the rings and an apology scribbled on toilet paper. And you? I read the damn thing out loud, then used it to clean the sink. That evening, I came home and found a letter slipped under the door. Michael, Mom, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know I get it now. The weight of a home isn't measured in square footage, it's measured in memories. Sophia didn't see that. I didn't want to. That's why I lost it. And you? I read it out loud in the living room, just me and the couch. Then I folded it up and tucked it in the drawer where I keep gas bills, the temporary stuff, the forgettable things. Saturday morning, I went to the farmer's market. Between the booths, a woman touched my arm. You live in the blue house, don't you? I nodded. Thank you for speaking up. Speaking up about what? For not letting them walk all over you. For showing it's okay to say no, even to your own kids. Before I could ask her name, she was gone. I came home feeling something shift inside. Turned on the radio, some old tune, Broken Glass. I sat in the kitchen, poured myself a little tequila, and wrote a letter. This time, I signed it. Dear Michael, I'm not your enemy, but I'm not your answer either. I'm not shutting you out because I'm bitter. I'm doing it because I respect myself. When you're ready to see me as more than a locked door, I'll be here, but I'll be holding the key, always. I didn't send it. I put it in the box with the photos from when he was little. Maybe someday, after the storm's long gone, he'll read it. Maybe not. Either way, I said what I needed to. And at my age, that's enough. Lucy came back on a Thursday. She brought a bag full of books. So the study doesn't feel so hollow, she said. Did they call you an old soul at school? Worse, they said I talk like I've lived 3 lives already. I pointed to the armchair. Then sit down and tell me about one of them. That night, with the streetlights casting long shadows across the walls, I thought of my mother. She used to say, in this world, a woman is worth what she endures, but also what she lets go of. I'd already done the enduring. Now it was time to let go. I let go of the anger. I let go of the guilt. I let go of Michael. And for the first time, I felt lighter than the Pasadena breeze. The last time someone knocked on my door with that kind of fear, it was my sister telling me Mom had passed. That knock had the same edge to it now, slow, hesitant. I didn't answer right away. I waited behind the door, listening, not to nothing, but to the kind of quiet that means someone's finally learned you don't walk in without being let in. I opened it. Michael, alone, clothes rumpled, beard grown out, eyes heavy and red, like sleep wasn't part of his life anymore. Can you talk? He asked, barely above a whisper. I haven't stopped. He came in without another word, walked like the house didn't recognize him, sat in the farthest chair in the kitchen. His eyes moved around the room like he was taking inventory, checking what had stayed the same and what hadn't, like he expected more change than he could handle. I didn't know if I should come back, he said, and still, you did, because this is the only place where everything hurts, but it hurt for a reason. I sat down across from him. We didn't speak, but it wasn't cold. It was the kind of silence you stop fighting once the excuses run out. She's gone, he said at last. Sophia, she maxed out what was left of the credit cards, took half the savings, and every damn mirror in the place. And what did you leave behind? He looked right at me. Myself. I didn't buy it, but I let it sit. Sometimes shame tells the truth before a man can. I thought we could start fresh, he went on. New place, cleaner lines, no memories in the walls to remind me of who I wasn't. The house wasn't the problem. I know, and neither was I. He swallowed, his eyes filled up, but he didn't let them spill. Not yet. When you were a kid, I said, you'd always ask me to leave your door cracked. You said if I closed it all the way, you wouldn't know if I'd still be there when you woke up. I remember, he said, low. And do you know what hurt the most? He shook his head. You were the one who shut the door. Never even checked if I was still on the other side. This time, he cried. No hands over his face. No trying to explain. Just tears. The kind that finally come when a man's forced to see what he's broken. I'm not here to ask for anything, Mom, he said. Not forgiveness. Not a share of what's left. Not a place to stay. I just needed to know if there's anything left to save. And what do you think can still be saved? Maybe. Just the last word. I let out a breath and stood, walked to the bookshelf, pulled out an envelope. No name on it, just a date scribbled in my handwriting. I wrote this when I thought you weren't ever coming back. I handed it to him. You want me to read it now? I want you to read it when you understand that staying isn't always weakness. Sometimes, it's strength. He slipped the envelope into his pocket. Lucy called me, he said, told me you're going to Santa Fe with her. For a while, nothing permanent, but the air doesn't smell like old fights there. And the house, it stays empty. No, with its stories, and with whoever knows how to honor them. He didn't stay the night. He walked out with his shoulders set, but not as heavy as before. He closed the door gently. First time in years he didn't slam it. 3 days later, Lucy showed up with a new sweater and a bright voice. Found the place in Santa Fe. Big yard, kitchen's huge, and there's a neighbor who makes chili like your mom used to. I smiled, and a firm bed, firmer than your temper. I laughed. Then let's go. Before we left, I stopped in the yard. The old swing set was still there. Rope was worn, but the seat still held. Michael showed up without saying anything, holding a potted hydrangea, blue, like my mother's, for the patio in Santa Fe, he said. Maybe it'll bloom there too. Only if the soil's ready, I said. And are you? I didn't say a word, just picked up the plant and held it close, like holding on to something unspoken. At the station, while we waited for the bus, Lucy asked, do you think Michael's ever really coming back? I stared out where the mountains blurred into the sky. People don't return the same, some never do. But if he comes back without a single excuse, just quiet, We'll find space for him. And would you? She asked. If he leaves his muddy shoes outside, he can walk in. Lucy gave a little nod, and as we climbed aboard, she hit me with one of her usual lines. Auntie, my grandma always said home is where no one asks what you did wrong. They just hand you coffee and bread. Then Santa Fe better have the coffee brewing, I told her. The road twisted through the hills. I let the ride settle me, pulled out my notebook, started writing without thinking. Some homes fall apart in one bad storm. Others only break when you stop believing they're worth saving. Mine's still standing, and so am I. This story is based on real events. The names and places have been changed to protect the woman behind it. It's about a mother who gave everything, her time, her dreams, her whole life, for her children and grandchildren, only to be cast aside, taken for granted, and forgotten. But when she had nothing left to lose, she stood up for herself. And this time, she lived on her own terms. This isn't about pointing fingers. It's a chance to pause and ask, how many mothers are quietly breaking inside their own homes now? I want to hear from you, the one listening. What would you have done in my shoes? Have you been through something like this? Drop a comment and tell me. And while you're here, I've left 2 of the channel's favorite stories on the end screen. They might just catch you off guard. Thanks for staying with me.